About 6 months ago, ISIS was planning major attacks in Raqqa. They were planning major attacks against the United States, against our partners, and they were doing it in Raqqa using the infrastructure of a major city. Today in Raqqa, ISIS is fighting for every last block and trying to defend blocks that they are about to lose. They are fighting for their own survival. It's a fundamentally transformed situation. The Raqqa operation to seize Raqqa launched on June 6th, and as of today, as I mentioned, the SDF has seized about 45% of Raqqa. And there was a very detailed briefing at DoD yesterday from Colonel Dillon, who's on the ground in Iraq, talking about the details of this operation. The two axes of advance from east to west are actually about to connect. They could connect now, but they have to clear some high-rise buildings before they join forces at a roadway. And that will really help accelerate the second phase of the operation to clear the rest of the city. We estimate there's about 2,000 ISIS fighters left in Raqqa. I'm always hesitant to give numbers like that because this is an inexact science. We think there's about 2,000 ISIS fighters left in Raqqa, and they most likely will die in Raqqa. UN estimates now there's about 25,000 civilians on the ground in Raqqa. It could be higher, but that is a UN estimate. And what's really happening in Raqqa, similar to what we saw in Mosul, but on a smaller scale, the ISIS fighters on the ground are using these civilians as their own shields, as their own hostages. They are using snipers to kill civilians who are trying to escape. They're trying to put suicide bombers in columns of displaced people as they try to get out. The similar tactics we've seen from this barbaric terrorist organization in other cities. The campaign to seize Raqqa was enabled by an operation that came a few months ago in the city of Topka, and that's just to the left, to the west of the yellow Gumball 1. So Topka is right there, just near Topka Dam, right on where the Euphrates kind of curves. And I want to highlight Topka because it was critical to setting the conditions for the success we're now seeing in Raqqa and to really basically tightening the noose around ISIS. And I don't think it could have happened absent this delegation of authorities that I talked about. So, and I happened to see this up close because I was in Syria in March in a town of Ainissa, which is there on the map just north of Raqqa. And we met with some of the local commanders who were sensing what was happening with ISIS. And they told our military commander, General Steve Townsend, who's done an extraordinary job over the last year, that they sense there's an opportunity to catch ISIS by surprise in the city of Topka and at the Topka Dam, and there's an airfield there called the Topka Airport. And they said, all we need is you to help us get across this body of water. It's about an 8-kilometer body of water at night, drop us behind ISIS lines, and then we can take it from there, basically catching ISIS by surprise and seizing these three very strategic areas. This was very important to close the noose on ISIS because ISIS was using this area to get personnel and equipment in and out of Raqqa. It was pretty audacious. It required us to put these fighters on helicopters crossing about 8 kilometers of water at night. These fighters are incredibly brave, but most of them have never been on a helicopter. It was also very complicated because it was hard to tell exactly what was on the other side of the water because we had never really been that far south. General Townsend and our commanders approved this operation, and really within a period of days it launched. It took about 6 weeks to finish, but the forces that we were talking about were right. They actually know the local area. They caught ISIS by surprise. They were able to seize Topka, Topka Dam, and the airport, and we really saw ISIS go into a bit of a reeling effect after that. We saw a lot of their fighters trying to flee, and their defenses in Raqqa begin to degrade a little bit. So it was a really critical operation, and it was done because authorities been delegated down to seize opportunities like that. It was a really important moment in this overall campaign. We also have had to work very closely as forces converge in this area. As the Secretary mentioned, despite all of our tensions with Russia, we also look for areas where we have to find a way to work together, and I think Syria exemplifies that. This is particularly true in Topka because regime forces, Syrian regime forces, are very close to the area that our forces are operating in. And we actually had an incident on June 18th in which our forces shot down a Syrian jet that violated an agreement that we had on the ground of where they could go and where they could not go. Since then, we have drawn what we call a deconfliction line with the Russians to help accelerate the campaign in Raqqa and to basically make clear where their forces will be and where our forces will be. This is held extremely well. This is now in place. Our military personnel speak with the Russians every day, and we, of course, have diplomatic consultations on issues like this far less frequently, but whenever we need to. And the Secretary, of course, is speaking with Foreign Minister Lavrov from time to time, and he'll see him soon at the ASEAN conference coming up later this weekend. So a very important deconfliction line with the Russians has helped us enable and accelerate the pressure on ISIS in Raqqa.